Hello, I'm Michelle from the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine in the Children's Room. Thank you for joining me for part 2 of Sofia Valdez and the Vanishing Vote, written by Andrea Beaty, illustrated by David Roberts, and published by Amulet Books. The class compared the list of candidates against the requirements. One by one, they crossed candidates off the list. This is chapter 5, by the way. What about this one? Asked Miss Greer, pointing to the Chrysler building. It's not poisonous and it's not going to bite anyone. It's not named Geraldine, said Ada. It fits all the requirements, said Rosie. Then it's in, said Miss Greer, smiling at Iggy. Iggy Pack smiled back. Okay, said Miss Greer. Let's vote again. Miss Greer tallied the votes. Turtle, 5. Bird, 6. Lizard, 3. Fish, 2. Chrysler building, 1. There we have it, said Miss Greer. Turtle and birds are 2 candidates. Turtle and bird. Sophia smiled. Things were going so well. She could imagine real presidential candidates having conversations just like this one, only without skunks and giraffes. What if the class could make this choice even more like a real election? Miss Greer, said Sophia, I've been thinking, can we do this just like a real presidential election? Can we have campaigns and everything? Miss Greer thought for a moment. That's a good idea, said Miss Greer. And since it was your idea, Sophia, you should be the election commissioner. What's an election commissioner? Asked Iggy. The commissioner makes sure the election is fair and that everybody's right to vote is protected, said Miss Greer. They make the ballots and run the election. It's a difficult but very important job. The election commissioner promises to follow the rules and be fair. I can do that, said Sophia. I promise. Miss Greer smiled. Rosie will run the bird campaign since it was her nominee, she said, and Ada will run the campaign for Turtle for the same reason. What about everyone else? Asked someone in the back of the room. Miss Greer paused for a moment. For all of you, she said, there remains the most important job of all, a job with the most responsibility of all, a job that requires your time and commitment and dedication. Like a chore? Asked another student. No, said Miss Greer, like an honor. You all have the job of getting informed and voting. It is serious and it is important because it affects everyone. You are up to the job, she said, but I don't think it is going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of work from everyone. What do you think? The class cheered again. For the rest of the day, Miss Greer's class learned about elections and decided on rules. First, they decided that everyone in Miss Lila Greer's class would be included in the process. They were automatically registered to vote. They would have a campaign with rallies, posters, and speeches. After the campaigns, they would vote, and Miss Lila Greer's class at Blue River Creek Elementary would have the first democratically elected class pet in the history of the town. Chapter 6. Sophia couldn't wait to tell Abuelo all the election news when she met him after school. I want to hear all about it, Abuelo said, but let's wait for Maricela. I brought her some orejas. Just then, Sophia's cousin waved and rolled over to them in her wheelchair. Abuelo gave her a hug and handed her a paper sack of baked treats. Are these for me, Abuelo? She asked. You're a big sister now, said Abuelo. That deserves a special treat. And how is baby Mateo? Maricela's smile faded. He sneezes all the time and has a rash, she said. The doctor thinks it's allergies. Oh no, said Sophia. Mom made me put Pickles' bird cage in the laundry room so it's far from Mateo, said Maricela. He's allergic to your pet bird? Abuelo asked. They're doing tests, said Maricela. If he is, I'll have to get rid of Pickles. Her eyes teared up. I'm sorry, said Sophia, hugging her cousin. Then, bam! An idea smacked Sophia right in the brain. What if Miss Greer's class adopted Pickles as their new pet? It would be perfect. Maricela could come visit Pickles anytime she wanted, and Mateo would stop sneezing. Oh, said Sophia, I have a great... Then, boom, another idea struck. Bird was one of the candidates for the election, and Sophia was the election commissioner. If she suggested pickles for class pet, she could change the whole election. That wouldn't be fair to the turtle supporters. Her entire job was making sure the election was fair. She had to be very careful about what she said and did. If she even told anyone about pickles, it could make people change their vote. Anything an election commissioner did had to be for the good of the election and not the candidate. A sinking feeling came over Sofia. How could she help Maricela and keep her promise to the class to be fair? She said. Well, are you okay, Sofia? Asked Abuelo. You were going to tell us about your election. Maybe later, said Sofia quietly. Abuelo gave Sofia his, I don't know what's going on, but I'll change the subject look. So, Maricela, said Abuelo in a big, cheery voice, tell me all about this new baby. How are your parents? How is school? And they headed down the sidewalk with Maricela answering questions, Abuelo munching a cookie, and Sofia feeling like her heart weighed 1,000,000 trillion tons. Here they are. Chapter 7. Sofia didn't see Maricela the next day and was so busy with election that she stopped worrying about pickles. Every kid in Miss Greer's class found a way to get involved. Sofia's team would build a voting booth and make ballots. Some kids joined the bird campaign with Rosie, and some joined the turtles with Ada. Some didn't join either campaign. They needed to know more before they made up their minds. Each campaign came up with catchy phrases to get people excited about their candidates. They put these slogans on posters and made buttons to wear. Both Rosie and Ada tried to convince Sofia to tell the other kids that she supported their candidates. Here's a picture. But Sofia couldn't endorse bird or turtle like that. As election commissioner, she had a promise to keep. But even so, Ada and Rosie both stuck pins on Sofia's satchel when she wasn't looking. Sofia gave the buttons to Abuelo. Abuelo's hat was covered with buttons from different causes he supported. He had been an activist for many years and always tried to help other people who were not being treated fairly. Abuelo believed that everyone could help, and it didn't matter if you were young or old. Even though Sofia couldn't cheer for a candidate, she could still vote. She went back and forth trying to decide who to vote for. When she was younger, she had had a turtle that had been her mother's. She loved it so much. It would be fun to have a turtle in the classroom every day. On the other hand, voting for bird might help Maricela. Sofia didn't know what to do, so she was glad when that Friday Miss Greer suggested they make a class newspaper to explore the election in greater depth. It would be a good way to inform everyone about turtles and birds and how each might behave as a class pet. Sofia loved the idea of including news in their election. After all, the news played a big part in real presidential elections. A newspaper would be fun, said Sofia. And important, said Miss Greer. Our third president, Thomas Jefferson, said, "The only security of all is in a free press." Our newspaper will be free, asked Rosie. Yes, said Miss Greer, but it could cost money. But then it wouldn't be a free press, said Iggy. A free press means that the government doesn't tell the paper what to print, said Miss Greer. Reporters have freedom to write about whatever they want. That's important so we can always know what's going on. Shouldn't the government just tell us what's going on, asked Ada. Usually, said Miss Greer, but what if we elect a rotten apple? They wouldn't tell on themselves, would they? That's where the press can help. That sounds simple, said Sofia. There are many places in the world where it isn't, said Miss Greer. Sometimes it's dangerous to report the news, and journalists have to be very brave. It's a tough job. We can do it, said Rosie. I agree, said Miss Greer. This weekend, she added, anyone who wants to can write an article, or you could create a comic to show your opinion. That's called an editorial cartoon. They can be funny and powerful. On Monday, we'll pull it all together into a newspaper. Here's a picture of the two candidates. Chapter 8. Over the weekend, Sofia and her team worked on the voting booth, ballots, and signs encouraging everyone to vote. Each night, she drifted to sleep thinking about the election and her job to make sure it was all fair and square. She was feeling good about it. Maybe the class would be able to pick the best pet and the election would be as smooth as silk. It was a great feeling. Then Monday morning, it all went poof. Oh, here are some of the posters people brought in. Turtles are so boring. Slow, boring, don't vote turtle. Don't get snapped by snapping turtles. And then birds are just dinosaurs without teeth. Don't vote bird. Birds, don't they just fly away? Oh, turtle terror. Don't get pooped on, vote turtle. Then someone did a picture of a dinosaur that says, not safe pets, danger. Birds evolved from dinosaurs. Chapter 9. Miss Greer stared at the news stories. She did not look happy. This is not what I had in mind, she said. But you said we could write anything we wanted, said Rosie. Yes, said Miss Greer, I did, but it has to be true. Look at this. Birds evolved from dinosaurs, but are dinosaurs safe pets? That one is true, said Ada. I read about it in my book on dinosaurs. But I didn't say we should get a dinosaur, said Rosie, just a little bird. This story makes birds sound scary and dangerous. Rosie's cheeks flashed bright red. She frowned at Ada. Ada frowned back. What about your picture? Asked Ada. She pointed to an illustration of a big snapping turtle with the caption, Turtle Terror. Uncle Fred told me that snapping turtles could bite your finger off like an alligator, said Rosie. We're not getting a snapping turtle, said Ada. Turtles are as scary as alligators, said someone in the back. Dinosaurs are scarier, someone else replied. Soon the whole class was arguing about dinosaurs and alligators. Sophia looked at her best friends, who stood frowning at each other. She had to do something. But what? She couldn't take either side without breaking her promise. She thought about how Miss Greer got the class's attention by standing very still. Sophia stood perfectly still. Nobody noticed. Even Miss Greer was too busy trying to get Rosie and Ada to talk to each other to see what Sophia was doing. The class got louder and louder. Sophia tried clapping her hands in rhythm like how Principal Howe did to get their attention at an assembly. Nobody noticed that either. Sophia thought about Abuelo. He always told her that when he saw a problem, he tried to help. He joined marches and organized people to change things. They used buttons and signs, marches and letter writing. Sometimes they quit buying products from companies that were not being fair to people. That was called a boycott, and it got people's attention. They had another tool, too, a tool that got people's attention and helped them come together. That was exactly what the class needed now. Sophia lifted her head high. She cleared her throat, and she began to sing. Chapter 10. If songs could unite marching protesters, they could unite classmates. Unfortunately, Sophia couldn't remember any of the songs Abuelo sang to her. She couldn't remember any songs that would inspire people to stop arguing and be kind. At that moment, she couldn't remember any songs at all, except one. And so, Sofia Valdez sang the one song she could remember. It was familiar, it was easy, and it was also the most annoying song in the world. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Sophia started quietly. It felt weird to be the only one singing while everyone else was arguing, but she sang anyway. She sang one verse, then another, and with each verse she sang a little louder. And she added the hand motions that she and Abuelo had learned at the library when she was little, and she zipped through the oink oinks and the quack quacks, and she started on the moo moos. Sophia was on a roll. She finished at full volume. Here she is. As the last note evaporated into the air, Sofia opened her eyes and realized for the first time how quiet a classroom could be when 16 students and a teacher stood there staring at you with their mouths wide open. And we are going to stop there. That was part 2 of Sofia Valdez and the Vanishing Vote by Andrea Beaty, illustrated by David Roberts, published by Amulet Books. I'm Michele at the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. Join me next time for part 3. See you then.